Okay, here we are on the 1882 wiring repair, and this is wiring repair continued. We have already done the key switch and the connections there. Now we're moving on to the starter solenoid and the wiring connected to the starter solenoid, which includes this ground here, this main power going out to the switch here, and the solenoid wire here. And then I'm adding in an extra ground to this solenoid because it's not grounded through the case. There's a fiber insulator right here. So this one's designed to have an external ground applied to it. So I've made a jumper to go to ground here, and I've added a second auxiliary ground on this circuit so that if I run a fuel pump or something, I've got another ground just ready to go. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do, I think, is going to be this one here. So this one is the solenoid wire, and the very end of this one just looks like crap. So I'm just going to cut it off, put a new end on it. It's got plenty of length to still get there. So as you can see, I'm not using standard connectors like this one here. I'm pretty sure that's not factory. I don't know for sure, but it's not sealed. It's insulated, but it's not sealed. So anytime I'm replacing any of these connectors, I'm going with a sealed one. So that one's going to get this guy here. It's a solder and crimp and heat shrink. So should be pretty good. Strip those back a little further. Okay, give her a crimp. Okay. And we'll give her some heat. Get that solder to flow. It's got to be close. There it goes. Ooh, that's some coming out the end. Be careful with that, huh? Yeah, it came all the way out the end. Okay. So we'll let that cool. It's a pretty nice connection. You've got a band of solder right here, and then a crimp, and then the whole thing's insulated. We'll just let that one cool. This here is a factory terminal, and it's a ground, and it's really bad too. It's rusty, crusty, no good. This terminal that it connects to is okay, but I think what I'm going to do instead of doing any of that is just eliminate this ring and stud configuration here, and it looks like I have just enough length in the harness that I can run that ground up here, and if I need to, I can always run the ground back somewhere else. It's not a big deal, but I'm going to eliminate one other connection. So this is going to go away, and this is just going to get a solid ring terminal in like this. So that should fit a 1/4 inch bolt. So anywhere there's a 1/4 inch bolt on here that goes through ground, I can connect it. So snap that off. Take a look. This really wants to focus on the tractor side. All right, whatever. Goodbye. The wiring still looks good back in here. The copper's nice and shiny. So, no need to go any further back than that. Give her a good crimp. This one is not a solder style. This one's just heat shrink, so it should be a little quicker. All right, that looks pretty good. Good connection there. All right, next is our fused power coming from the solenoid post into the key switch. So I've got an inline fuse holder here. And I've got a ring terminal picked out, and I've already crimped on the butt connector on this side. So the length on this side is pretty much fixed. So I'm just gonna have to connect it there, and then probably come up like that, I think, maybe. Or I come up this way. I don't know if I should just keep it. I should probably just keep it long. That way I can strap it up if I need to. But it looks like if I come around this way, that's probably a better bet. So we'll just keep it this length. I don't have everything located perfectly yet, so I don't know for sure where everything's going to get secured and tied up, but for what we're doing, it'll work just fine. And really, the whole purpose of this is just to make sure we've got solid connection points again on the tractor. Nice crimp. Same deal with this one. It's just a typical heat shrink style. There we go. Good to go now. So that's going to come either, I think the battery is on this side actually, so I think the main battery post will be over here anyway. So we're going to take the main power wire here, connect it to the sealed fuse. It's got actually like a rubber boot to keep it nice and clean. Yeah, we'll run that over to this. Let's see what this looks like. That's not bad. And every connection, just like all the other ones, is going to be a sealed heat shrink connection. So this thing can get sprayed with water and these connections won't get any worse. You can solder these in too if you want. I think that in some applications, solder is not the best if you can avoid it. It's not necessarily the best connection to make because it doesn't allow for flexibility and vibration. These sealed butt connectors and other connectors are nice. They make a real solid connection, and they also allow for a little bit of movement. Whereas a solder joint will crack. These don't really have a solder joint necessarily to crack. So I'll let that cool, and we'll route that one. The next is going to be, so we got that ground, which is going to come over here, and we've got, that's the main post there. So this is going to be the ground jumper that comes up to the solenoid here. So we'll just temporarily put a bolt down in there to hold it in place. Oh wow, that's gross. Jeez. I gotta get some new hardware for this too. This is just really gross. So right now everything's getting put in as a placeholder. We'll make it nice and pretty once everything's fully tested. Yeah, this ground here needs to come up there. So I'm gonna put that on there too. Just run him under here. Like that. It's a little tight, but it's not real bad. I think it'll be fine. Okay. And then this is the jumper. Figure out which way I want this to go. Maybe like that, I don't know. Kind of would prefer it go on the other side of that. On there like this. Yeah, I think that's how I want to run it. Looks cleaner that way. We got the ground here for the solenoid. And then we got the extra ground here that will be basically used for fuel pump or other auxiliary circuits. This is the solenoid engage wire. So figure out how we're going to route this one. That's a little tight. I don't like that. Just run it up this way instead. Again, I'm just getting this stuff roughly laid out so I have an idea in my head of where things are going to be. And since this is a coil, it really doesn't matter if I have the positive on this side and the negative here, or the positive here, negative here. It doesn't care about the polarity of it. Actually, that's not too bad. That's pretty clean, I think. So I think that'll work. So with that roughly in place, we've got the main fuse, which probably will come around like this, I think. Come around there, maybe. It looks a little funky. It's actually a little bit too long. I guess I could come back like this. It looks funky too. The main battery post here is going to be coming from the battery over here with a big lug to hold it down. So I think for now what I'll do is I'll just temporarily put this in place until I find a good happy spot for it. That's not too bad like that. That actually looks pretty good. Gives me enough room to bring the main post in. So let's just secure this for now. Need to get the full-size battery in here to be absolutely certain that that's where I want that to go, but for now, as a placeholder, that'll work out just fine. Just snug it down so it doesn't move. Okay, good enough. Good enough for who it's for. Okay, those are taken care of. We're gonna get rid of that. And the last piece of wiring hanging out of this harness is this guy here. Real crappy ground that may have been altered at some point in time, I'm not sure. But this harness is going to go back that way, like that. So I think this still needs to be just about as long. It just needs a better end to put on it. So we'll snip that off and put on the other terminal. And that one's a little crusty up there. It's not terrible, but... And that one's got a... That might be a 5/16 or a 3/8 ring on it. It's a little bigger. Just in case it has to go through like a 3/8 bolt or something, or a 5/16 and a 1/4 inch. I don't know exactly where that was supposed to be placed, so... Just trying to make sure it's going to fit no matter what. Alright, burn that in. Okay, there we go. That looks good. So, all those external connections are now restored. There's a couple other ones in here, like the hour meter is pretty... The terminals on the hour meter are pretty gross. I might do something with those. What are those? Just spades? Spades? Yeah. Why not? Why not? Let's do that. Oh, we're in there. Got 2 sealed spades for those. Why not? They're gross. Right here, you got the hour meter leads, and this insulation's took off of this one. So let's see if I can get away with snipping it here. And this one, same thing. Let's see if I can snip it there. Trying to keep as much of the length intact as possible. That'll work. And these are the solder and seal style, so we'll leave them a little bit long. Crimp over here. Okay, got her crimped. A little tug, feels good. If I had the time and the materials, I would probably just redo the entire harness rather than trying to identify each somewhat faulty component, but this will definitely make it better than it was, which is the theme of the channel. Better than it was. Is it perfect? No. Does it need to be? Well, be nice if it was, but careful with this thing. It's cook you. I got bit good yesterday by this torch. Move that out of the way. Get in here like this. So one thing I just learned about these is that you don't want to have it tilted down with the terminal facing down, because gravity will flow the solder into the spade and then it won't do its job. Got a little bit poking out there, huh? There we go. Yep, I just saw the solder poke out of the wire there, so we'll let it cure. Let it cool. Yeah, there's a tiny little chunk of it sticking out there. Where it pierced the insulation. A little trickier to work with than the regular heat shrink ones. Do the other one. There she goes. Alright. Had enough heat in there. Looks like it flowed pretty good. Got that cool. Got a ground there. So I think the next step is going to be to focus on the PTO control, the reverse relay portion of it. Probably pull this jumper out here and make sure that everything looks good here. I've never actually pulled this out of here to see what the connections are like. I know it's just a jumper, it's not a switch or a relay, but still, it could be crusty. Man. Yeah, there's probably a reason I haven't pulled it out of there.